Hey everyone, my name is Hannah and I'm the outreach specialist for the OGRAIN program out of UW-Madison. Today we're going to be talking about submitting your grain sample for analysis at a lab. All right, all food grade grains need to be tested for mycotoxins, which are not good for human health. Unfortunately, in Wisconsin and in the upper Midwest, mycotoxins are pretty prevalent because of the climate we have here, which tends to be wetter. The FDA has standards set for appropriate levels of mycotoxins, and food grade grains need to be below those levels for human safety. All right, here I have a sample of grain that I took from a recent barley harvest. Just like soil, it's important to get a representative sample of your grain. And you can get that while you're harvesting or as you're unloading your grain into another bin. Think about getting about 10 subsamples from the process and not at the very beginning and not at the very end of your harvest or loading, unloading. Your total sample should weigh about 2 to 3 pounds, depending on what the lab requires. Each lab that you submit to has suggestions for how to appropriately sample your grain. And Dairyland Labs, which is a lab that is in the upper Midwest, has suggestions, and we'll link to that below. Okay, so you found a buyer for your grains, but you want to make sure it's food grade. So you should look at the Food Grade Grains Guide, also linked below, that has a list of acceptable labs to test your grain in section 7. So check that out. Okay, for this example, we're going to fill out the Dairyland Labs sample submission form. Many labs also have an online submission form that's super easy to fill out, but pretty similar to this one. So we'll look at this together. Okay, for this example, we'll look at the Dairyland Labs sample submission sheet. So first you'll fill out the information at the top here. Again, a lot of labs allow you to do this all online. Then we'll check the boxes of the tests that we want done for our grain sample. Now for small grains, you'll want to test for vomitoxin and DON, which is under the molds and mycotoxins heading down here. Certain strains of Fusarium, a mold, produce fumonisin, which is a mycotoxin that you must test for in corn. If we flip over to the chemistry analysis heading, a food grade grain buyer might be interested in crude protein as well, so we'll check that box. Your buyer might ask you to test for additional qualities, which might require you to send your grain to a lab specific for grains going toward food and beverage. Someone buying your grain for milling quality for flour might ask for you to test for protein and something called falling number. We'll link to a fact sheet below about that. Submitting grain like barley for malting quality requires certain tests that will tell a maltster about the quality of your grain through soluble extracts that test for enzymes and proteins. Your state crop improvement association lab will sometimes do these tests, as will some private colleges like Hartwick College's Center for Craft Food and Beverage. When you get a grain quality test back, the results are clearly labeled and your buyer will know what to do with the analyses. But keep track of these tests you do over time, and you might be able to hone in on the qualities you are striving to improve. Thanks so much for joining us to talk about submitting a grain sample to a lab for analysis. If you want to learn more about organic grain, grain for food and beverage, or generally about sustainable agriculture, you can visit the OGRAIN website, the Artisan Grain Collaborative, or Michael Field's Agricultural Institute for more information and a whole host of different resources. And we'll see you next time.